Imagine yourself deep in the Carpathian wilds, standing face to face with a 1.5-ton giant crowned with massive horns and wrapped in thick fur. The European bison. A creature that vanished from these lands 250 years ago. And now, impressive herds of these titans roam ancient forest roads once again, reviving the woods and turning them into a living, breathing system. How did this happen? Subscribe. It only gets more interesting from here. The European bison once ruled the entire continent. From the lands of Spain to the Ural Mountains, from the northern reaches of Scandinavia to the Balkan ranges, these colossal animals shaped forests and open plains alike. Ancient thinkers like Herodotus and Aristotle, Seneca and Tacitus wrote about them with awe. Roman rulers even displayed bison in gladiatorial arenas. But humanity kept advancing, and the bison kept retreating. In the 6th century, the last French giant fell. By the 18th century, they vanished from German, Romanian, and Saxon lands. In the 19th century, the bison nearly disappeared from the map of Europe, surviving only in 2 small refuges, the Bielovesia forest and the Caucasus Mountains. 2 main causes led to this tragedy. The first was the clearing of forests for farmland. The second was relentless hunting. And while the first could be seen as a cost of progress, the second shocks with its sheer cruelty. Archaeologists discovered a mass grave in southern present-day Ukraine containing roughly 1,000 bison pierced with Paleolithic flint spear points. 1,000 animals. And this was with hunters armed only with spears and bows. Try to grasp the scale of that slaughter. In the Middle Ages, the bison became a trophy of royal hunts. Common people were forbidden, under threat of death, from even approaching these animals. But that did not save the forest giants. Royal hunts were conducted on a massive scale. The bison went from ruler of the wild to a status symbol, a living target for the elite. By the early 20th century, the situation was critical. Only 2 small populations remained, representing different subspecies, the Białowieża and the Caucasian. After the First World War and revolutionary upheavals, even these last bison were lost. In the wild, the species was completely exterminated. But in European zoos and private breeding centers, 17 purebred Białowieża bison survived. 17 animals. From this tiny group began one of the most astonishing rescues in conservation history. For decades, researchers painstakingly rebuilt the population. Breeding records were kept, pairings carefully planned to preserve genetic diversity. By the early 21st century, Europe already had around 7,500 bison, but most lived in reserves and breeding centers. And then in 2012, a bold idea was born in Romania. The organization Rewilding Europe, together with the Worldwide Fund for Nature and local authorities, launched a project to return bison to the Carpathians, to the Tarpcu Mountains, part of the Southern Carpathians, where these animals had not been seen for 250 years. The location was chosen perfectly, a mosaic of habitats ideal for bison. Vast protected areas of the Domogled and Retezat national parks. Freedom to roam across 150,000 hectares of forests, meadows, and shrublands. In 2014, the first 3 bison were brought to southwestern Romania. They came from different zoos and breeding centers across Europe. Cautious, shaken by the long journey, they stepped onto the land of their distant ancestors. A new era for the Carpathian wilds began. Researchers watched with bated breath. Would the bison adapt? Could they survive in the wild after generations in captivity? The answer came quickly. The animals adapted with remarkable ease, as if genetic memory guided them along familiar paths. By 2021, the Carpathians were already home to 105 bison. Over those years, 38 calves were born, and what is especially encouraging, not a single death was recorded in the last 2 years. The population was not just surviving, it was thriving. Between 2014 and 2023, 99 European bison were brought to the Romanian mountains. In 2024, another 14 arrived to strengthen genetic diversity. By February 2026, the population had grown to more than 190 animals. The goal of the project is to increase the herd to 250 and eventually to 450 animals. That number would create a stable, self-sustaining population capable of existing without constant human intervention. But the most astonishing part was not the numbers. The real surprise was what the bison began doing to the forest. It turned out the bison is not just a large animal. It is an ecosystem engineer, an architect of nature, a creator of landscapes. Bison began grazing evenly, creating a mosaic of tall and short grasses. Some bird species need open, low areas. Others need dense, tall growth. The bison provided habitat for all of them. They rubbed their sides against tree trunks, sometimes knocking them down completely. They stripped bark. At first glance, it looks like destruction, but no. This opens space for other plant species and supplies the forest with dead wood, which is vital for fungi, insects, small mammals, the entire ecosystem. Bison browse young growth and thin the forest, preventing it from becoming dark and choked with impenetrable stands. Sunlight reaches the forest floor, and grasses, flowers, and shrubs flourish there. Diversity explodes. Their dung becomes natural fertilizer, recycling nutrients and returning them to the soil. Bison spread plant seeds across their roaming range, carrying them in their fur and digestive systems for dozens of miles. Then researchers discovered something completely unexpected. Bison help fight climate change. In 2024, a study by Yale University shocked the scientific community with its conclusions. A herd of 170 bison living in an area of just 48 square kilometers helps capture and store more than 54,000 tons of carbon dioxide each year. That is 10 times more than would be stored without bison. Professor Oswald Schmitz from the Yale School of the Environment explained the mechanism. Bison distribute themselves evenly across grasslands, recycle nutrients, spread seeds, and crucially, compact the soil with their hooves. Compacted soil prevents stored carbon from escaping back into the atmosphere. One wild bison offsets the environmental damage caused by 250 cars. Think about that. One animal versus 250 vehicles. The bison wins. Their grazing stimulates the growth of new, more nutritious plant shoots. These young plants send roots deeper into the soil, strengthening carbon storage. Healthy grasslands maintained by bison become powerful carbon sinks. Southern Carpathian meadows have unique soil and climate conditions that make them ideal for this process. Bison create a landscape of forests, shrubs, grasslands, and countless microhabitats. Biodiversity skyrockets. But the project benefited more than nature alone. The return of bison became a powerful driver of ecotourism in the region. People from across Europe traveled to Romania to see these majestic animals in the wild. Local communities gained a new source of income. Hotels, guides, restaurants, souvenir shops. The entire nature tourism infrastructure began growing around the bison. Animals once seen as enemies of agriculture became an economic asset. The project is supported by European Union programs. Worldwide Fund for Nature Romania, the organization We Wilder, and local municipalities work together to ensure peaceful coexistence between the growing bison population and people. The first transport in Europe involving only male bison took place in 2021. This was necessary to strengthen genetic diversity and prevent inbreeding. Researchers constantly monitor the health of the population, track animal movements, and study their impact on the ecosystem. Every bison is accounted for, every birth and death recorded. It is a living open-air laboratory. The Romanian project inspired other countries. Bison began returning to the wild across Europe. Poland, Belarus, Slovakia, Germany, even the United Kingdom launched their own reintroduction programs. In 2022, bison appeared in Kent, England for the first time in thousands of years. 3 females were released into protected woodlands to take on the role of ecosystem engineers and transform uniform forest into diverse habitat. Each new bison population is an experiment, a discovery, a return of nature to its natural state. Scientists call this process rewilding, the restoration of wildness. But rewilding is not simply releasing animals into the forest and hoping for the best. It is extremely complex scientific work requiring deep knowledge of ecology, animal behavior, and ecosystem function. It is a delicate balance between freedom and control. With the Romanian bison, this balance has been achieved brilliantly. The animals live freely across a vast territory of 150,000 hectares, yet remain monitored. When problems arise, conflicts with farmers or disease, experts respond quickly. It is important to understand that modern bison differ from those that roamed Europe thousands of years ago. After the species passed through a severe genetic bottleneck and only 17 individuals remained, genetic diversity dropped sharply. All modern bison descend from that tiny group of survivors. This creates vulnerability. Low genetic diversity reduces resistance to disease and the ability to adapt to change. That is why constantly introducing new genes from different breeding centers is so critical. Scientists are also experimenting with hybridization. Since the Caucasian subspecies went completely extinct, some modern bison carry a small amount of Caucasian ancestry from zoo populations. This remains a debated issue: purity of lineage versus genetic diversity. Critics argue that centuries in captivity changed bison, made them tame, and that they would not survive on their own. The Romanian project disproves these fears. The bison are doing just fine, and the population is growing without outside help. More than that, the animals show remarkable self-organization. They form complex social groups, establish hierarchies, choose leaders. Everything happens instinctively, without human interference. Ancient behavioral programs emerge on their own. Calves born in the Carpathians are completely wild. They do not know humans, receive no supplemental feeding, and find food on their own. This is a new generation of truly wild bison, the first in 2.5 centuries in this region. Bison prove to be remarkably adaptable. In summer, they move up to alpine meadows where it is cool and grass is lush. In winter, they descend into forest valleys where food is easier to find and shelter from wind is available. It is as if they remembered their ancestral roots. Their diet is broad: grasses, leaves, tree bark, young shoots, fungi, berries. The bison is not picky and ready for almost any conditions. In summer, one animal can eat up to 60 kilograms of greenery per day. In winter, when food is scarce, they switch to bark and branches. Powerful jaws and strong teeth handle tough wood easily. With their hooves, they dig through snow to reach dry grass. Survival instincts are written into their genes. Adult bison have almost no natural enemies. Wolves are dangerous only to calves or sick animals. The herd fiercely protects its young, forming a circle and pointing horns outward. During the mating season, males engage in spectacular battles. They clash heads, lock horns, and shove each other with immense force. The victorious roar echoes through the forest, silencing everything for a moment. An ancient ritual for the right to pass on genes. Pregnancy lasts about 9 months. Usually one calf is born. Twins are rare. The newborn stands within an hour of birth and within a few days runs with the herd. Nature does not tolerate weakness. Young bison stay with their mothers for 2 or 3 years. During this time, they learn all survival skills: what plants to eat, where to find water, how to avoid danger, how to communicate with others. A true school of life in its purest form. Interestingly, bison create permanent trails. For centuries, animals follow the same routes, compacting the ground and forming clear paths through the forest. Other animals use these trails too. They become the veins of the forest. Where bison regularly bathe in dust or mud, special micro-worlds emerge. These wallows turn into watering spots for birds and small animals, breeding grounds for frogs, and centers of local biodiversity. Bison even influence local water dynamics. Their trails guide rain runoff. Wallows retain moisture. Trampling alters soil permeability. All of this shapes the hydrology of the landscape. Scientists noticed that with the arrival of bison, insect numbers increased in the Carpathians. Dung serves as food for dung beetles, which in turn become food for birds. Food chains are restored. The ecosystem comes alive. Plant diversity also increased. As bison roam, they spread seeds of dozens of species. Some seeds only germinate after passing through an animal's stomach. Digestive acids soften the hard coating. Fungi and lichens also flourished in bison forests. Dead wood created by bison is an excellent substrate for many fungal species. Fungi are critically important for forest health. They recycle organic matter and bind nutrients. Birds return to the Carpathians following the bison. Woodpeckers find more insects in decaying trees. Hawks and falcons hunt voles thriving in open meadows. Songbirds nest in diverse vegetation. Even butterflies and bees benefited. More flowers in meadows means more nectar and pollen. Pollination intensifies, plants produce more fruit, and the circle of life closes into a harmonious cycle. Local residents were initially wary of bison. These massive animals can be dangerous if disturbed. Risks of conflict, crop damage, and road accidents existed. Project organizers carried out extensive outreach. People learned how to behave when encountering bison, how to protect their fields, how to benefit from their presence. Gradually, attitudes changed. The bison went from threat to regional symbol and source of pride. Today, local farmers rent rooms to tourists hoping to see bison. Guides, often local villagers, lead groups along bison trails. Craftspeople sell bison-themed souvenirs. The regional economy grows. Municipalities receive grants to develop ecotourism. Observation towers, visitor centers, and nature trails are built. Investments pay off through taxes and overall prosperity. This is an important lesson for the whole world. Nature conservation and economic growth do not contradict each other. On the contrary, they can and should go hand in hand. Nature, when managed wisely, becomes a source of stable income. The Romanian experience showed the importance of international cooperation. Bison were brought from Germany, Sweden, the Netherlands, and Poland. Scientists from different countries shared experience, data, and methods. Nature knows no borders, and its protection requires collective effort. Funding came from many sources: European Union programs, private foundations, citizen donations, corporate sponsors. Everyone contributed to saving the bison. Media coverage played a huge role. Documentaries, magazine articles, television reports, social media posts, all of it drew public attention to the problem and its solution. The bison story touched millions of hearts. Children in Romanian schools now study bison in biology class. They draw them, write essays, and go on field trips to the mountains. A new generation is growing up understanding the value of wild nature and wanting to protect it. Scientific papers on Romanian bison are cited by researchers worldwide. Data from the Carpathians help plan reintroductions elsewhere. Romania has become a global center of expertise in bison rewilding. The project also revealed some challenges. Conflicts do occur. Bison sometimes wander into fields and trample crops. Roads are dangerous as well. Bison, especially at night, enter highways, leading to accidents. Warning signs, fences in dangerous areas, and animal deterrent systems are installed. Poaching, though rare, remains a threat. Bison horns are a valuable trophy on the black market. Patrols were strengthened, strict penalties introduced, and cameras installed at key locations. Disease is also a risk. In dense populations, infections spread quickly. Veterinarians regularly check herd health, take samples, and treat or vaccinate when needed. Climate change adds uncertainty. Hotter summers, unpredictable winters, shifting vegetation all affect bison and their habitats. Scientists model different future scenarios and prepare adaptation strategies. But despite all challenges, the project is considered one of the most successful in rewilding history. Bison have returned to the Carpathians and are here to stay. The population grows, ecosystems recover, and people learn to live alongside wild nature. Scientists dream of creating a continuous habitat corridor across Eastern Europe, connecting Romanian populations with Polish, Belarusian, and Ukrainian ones, giving bison freedom to move as they did thousands of years ago. This would require unprecedented international cooperation, agreements between countries, creation of cross-border reserves, construction of wildlife crossings over roads and railways. But if successful, Europe would gain a true jewel of rewilding. The story of Romanian bison is a story of hope. It shows that even when everything seems lost, when only a handful of animals remain, recovery is possible. All it takes is will, resources, knowledge, and time. Subscribe to the channel and write in the comments which other species you believe should be returned to the wild. Your opinion truly matters.